Hi everybody, I'm here from CareerMap and welcome to the second series of our CareermapLive CPD webinars for teachers, careers advisors and career leaders on the career strategy. These webinars are designed to help you with practical tips and information on ways to meet the Gatsby benchmarks. Our guests are leading experts from a range of sectors and organisations that will discuss what opportunities are available and how they can help. Today we are joined by Aisha Saeed, who is an early career assistant resourcing manager for BDO. Aisha will be speaking today around the myths connected with accounting careers and an introduction to BDO as a business. Before we begin, if you look to the right of the presentation screen, you'll see a chat facility. We are live, so ask any questions at any time. Feel free to make comments and ask questions about the presentation, and there'll be time at the end of Aisha's presentation for a full Q&A. So, Aisha, thanks very much for joining us today. Before you begin the presentation, could you just introduce yourself, give us a little bit of an overview of your role within BDO?
Yeah. Hi, Simon. Thank you so much for having me today. My name's Aisha Saeed, and I'm the Assistant Manager within the Early in Careers Resourcing function at BDO. I've been with the company since the start of the year, and my role predominantly looks at supporting our Early in Careers team with managing our recruitment process, and that covers both the outreach element of that function, so speaking to potential candidates, students, careers advisors, teachers and so on like yourselves, and then also supporting candidates through our application process.
Brilliant. Okay, well, I think everybody's keen to hear what you've got for us today, Aisha, so yeah, let's start the presentation. Thank you.
Brilliant. So thanks everyone for joining today. I guess the idea is that by the end of this webinar, we'll have covered who BDO are, what we do, myths about accounting careers, and the streams that we then offer, particularly at BDO as an accountancy firm, our programs and the qualifications that we provide candidates that get onto our programs. I'll cover a bit about the Level 7 apprenticeship, and then some top tips for creating a successful BDO application that may be useful to pass on to the students and potential candidates that you come across. Throughout this presentation, if you have any questions, please do write them down in the chat section, and there'll be time at the end of the slides to answer those specifically. Okay, so a bit about who we are. In the UK, BDO has a combined workforce of about 5,000 to 500 people, and we cross 17 locations across the UK. So that means we have 17 offices across the UK, delivering about 590 million pounds of revenue. We're a worldwide global business. We're part of BDO's international network, and within that there are about 80,000 people in total. Our revenues globally are about the 9 billion mark. We're in 162 countries. So in short, we're a big player in the industry. We have global reach and work with a vast range of clients across global regions, across industries, and across specialisms. In the UK specifically, we are specialists in audit, assurance, tax, and advisory services. And I'll go into a bit of detail about what those are. But first, I thought it'd be good to talk about who we are, what we pride ourselves in. So we are 100% guided by our values. We have 4 kind of areas that we kind of focus on, and that pulls through into how we treat our clients, how we treat ourselves as employees, but also how we look to treat candidates and potential candidates that would like to apply to us and go through our process. Mutual support is definitely one of those. We think it's really important that we value and support our people, and that again mirrors into our application process. There are key stages where we provide feedback, always personalized, and provide on the phone or via email support to candidates. And for us, it's important that we do this because the end goal is to have an inclusive working environment for the team, and for people to have relationships that really matter. And then empowerment and personal responsibility. So for us, it's about finding people who have the potential to work with confidence, who can work flexibly, which is very interesting for the time that we're in globally right now, and also provide the freedom to be confident and flexible at work. We understand that trust and responsibility go hand in hand, and we find it really important to build a culture that really nurtures that. And then we have honesty and integrity. We believe in transparency, incredibly important in the accounting world. It's important for our people, it's important for our clients. We believe in being genuine and fair, and that is definitely a core part of our culture. We find that it's really important to kind of talk about our values with the students and careers professionals that we meet, because this is really what people experience when they join us. So it's important that they know from the get-go what to expect. And then finally, we've got professional and personal client relationships. So I'll touch on this. Accountancy can have a bad rep for being dull, or only a place for introverts, but it's really important for our business that we are able to build strong relationships with our clients, both personal and professional. And we understand the person behind the business, as well as the business itself. And for us, that's how we foster the best relationships. That's how we build mutual respect. And that's how we build a relationship with our clients that means that they trust us and that we're able to provide an exceptional service. So now that I've talked a bit about BDO, I think it'd be good to look at the accounting myths. And I think it's really important that we kind of nail these from the get-go. I go into a lot of schools, a lot of universities, to speak to students and potential candidates, and these are some of the things that get echoed back to me when I ask them about considering a career in accountancy. And some of this are kind of legacy things that they've just inherited and are part of the zeitgeist, and some of it might be information that they are getting from the schools as well, where there's a misconception around what it takes to be an accountant, the type of person that goes into accountancy, and that then gets passed along and becomes this myth or this half truth. So I thought it'd be good to really nail that here. So there are kind of 6 big myths that I wanted to kind of talk about, and I'll just list them now and then talk about them individually. The idea that it's essential to be a maths genius to work in accounting, and that's one. The idea that accounting's for introverted and dull personality types. That desk work and number crunching are the kind of the bread and butter of a role as an accountant. The accountant doesn't provide purposeful impact. The idea that if having purpose, whether that's socially, economically, or otherwise, is a core driver for you, then accounting isn't the place for you. This is a myth that we hear as well. Also, that the industry as a whole, or the profession as a whole, is threatened by technological advancements. And then finally, that it's boring. And I hear that a lot. So to take all of those, tackling the first one, boring. There are so many different roles within accounting and within the profession that there is really room for everyone to find something that aligns with their passions. You can be an accountant who works with businesses across a range of industries, whether that's within entertainment and specifically working with kind of media brands, music labels, or having celebrities and musicians as your clients, to working with the government on our public services. And there really is room for people to work in areas that align to any interest that they have. And then the second being a maths genius. Being an accountant is much more about problem solving than doing complicated maths. The role is more about analysing and investigating. We often say that if you think of Sherlock Holmes, accountants are the Sherlock Holmes of numbers. The idea is to get behind the numbers and investigate to see if what those numbers are saying are true. And it's really important to remember, and I'll kind of touch on this when we talk about technology, the real benefit that technology has brought to the industry is that we no longer have accountants who are stuck, behind a desk bookkeeping. And actually a lot of that is automated now. So what that does is that it frees up capacity for accountants to really act as consultants and advisors to the businesses and governments or individuals that are their clients. Introverted and dull, and that kind of touches on the last point I said. Accountants are trusted advisors to clients. They have to be great communicators and be really good at building strong relationships. The bottom line is we're talking about numbers here. The financials of individuals or businesses, this is protected information. This is the do or die for a business. So to provide accounting services to your clients is really taking up a very important role in their business. So being able to build strong relationships, communicate complicated facts in a way that's easily digestible, help your clients ask the difficult questions and make the difficult decisions that they often have to make. It takes someone who's very good with people, who's able to build relationships and build trust and mutual respect. Touched on this briefly, but desk work and number crunching. One of the things that I found really interesting since starting with BDO is really understanding how much time accountants spend traveling. There is so much opportunity to do that, and that's because, like I said before, there is less bookkeeping involved. So it is an advisory role across the board. On any given day, they may be attending client meetings, producing financial reports, working on projects, or partaking in discussions on how to improve the overall business for a client. That could look like, in the process of auditing reports, having to travel to a factory in Asia or Africa to understand what the productivity looks like at that factory. Do those numbers then match what we're seeing on the books? There's just a real opportunity to explore, to investigate, to meet different people and understand different cultures that comes with the role that often gets missed. And then the point on kind of not being able to achieve purposeful impact. Many accountants, for example, those in the forensic accounting field, use their skills to prevent financial crime. We all know the white crimes. Those are investigated by accountants alongside lawyers and your police force or investigation bureau. At BDO alone, we have a team called the IIDA, which is the international institutions that look at auditing development charities that work abroad. The role of that team is to look at how the donations and the funds that those charities are able to gather each year are then used across the range of projects that they run. So that team travels a lot. They get to go to areas of Africa and the Middle East that people would love to do, would only dream of, to then look at what those charities are doing on the ground and how does that match what they're reporting. So it is really purposeful, and it's about, there is so much room within accounting to find what suits you. And then finally, threatened by technology, and I think I've covered this, but Technology, as all of us would have experienced in our daily lives, technology has provided such a benefit to the accounting industry. Again, it reduces the element of bookkeeping and frees up accountants to really be advisors to their clients. Automating certain processes means that we are now more consultants to businesses and able to provide that personalized service. So bringing that back to BDO, what does that look like for us? Where do we operate, and what do those departments do? So the first would be tax. We have a tax function. We also have an audit and assurance function, advisory, and business services and outsourcing. And I'll explain all of that. Prior to joining, this was all jargon to me, but it does speak to kind of different ways that we work with industry. So taking tax, first of all, tax advisors guarantee a personal service. They deliver accurate and authoritative advice and guidance on all tax related matters for our clients. So within that, things that might spring to mind are corporate international tax, helping businesses understand that when they're at a point where they're operating internationally, what tax do you pay, to what jurisdictions, what are you accountable for, responsible for in that sense. Human capital tax, indirect tax, VAT, private client services tax. It's all about helping individuals and businesses understand their tax requirements as it relates to the governments or the jurisdictions they operate in. And it shows itself in different ways. This can be during, a merger and acquisition. If a company's purchasing another company, is the company an international business? What does that mean for the tax requirements there? This role is very much an advisory role. It looks at understanding the tax laws and regulations that are operating in the jurisdictions that we focus on, and then walking our clients through those so that they understand what they need to do. And I've kind of touched on the different areas within that, but there is so much room there. We cover everything from real estate and construction tax all the way to corporate mergers and acquisitions. Then you've got audit, a big function, and in some ways is probably the part of accounting that probably gets shown in the news the most, because when large corporations or people of high net worth fiddle the books, or there's a mismatch between what they're reporting and what's actually happening, that gets discovered by auditors. In the same way, as auditors ourselves, it's our responsibility to make sure that we audit the books of our clients responsibly, and we help to make sure that what the numbers that are being reported are actually what should be there. And is actually what's happening on the ground. So auditing is about checking financial statements, making sure they're accurate, making sure they're presented fairly, and making sure that they comply with the reporting standards. We do that for not-for-profits, and I kind of touched on that with the IIDA. So we do that for charities, obviously really important for ensuring that the money that we all donate to the different charities that we work with, or that we donate, that we partner with, is being used well. And we do that for financial services, and we do that within internal and external audits. And again, all of this is a mix of kind of third sector and corporates. And again, there's a real range there. Within there, you've also got risk as well, which is essentially not only you're auditing the books, but you're helping businesses understand where they have areas of risk. All of this aligns to keeping on top of the regulations in place within the particular jurisdiction that a company operates in, and helping them make sure that they stick to those. Advisory is working with clients to build their vision, to help them navigate the course, and to help them understand where they are today and where they will be tomorrow, or where they can be tomorrow. As businesses grow, so do the challenges that they face. BDO's advisory service is all about helping our clients meet these challenges at every stage of their life cycle. So you can imagine the kind of person that works here. It's all about being able to build strong relationships with clients. It's all about being interested in understanding what your clients need, being able to think strategically and being able to understand numbers and extrapolate from there where you think the company should go. Again, you then have business services and outsourcing, and this essentially is essentially where we work with businesses to cover the internal accounting responsibilities that they have. So everything from payroll to understanding tax services to helping them as they grow, and being kind of a consultant to manage their accounting whilst they build up their team. The interesting thing about BDO services and BDO Drive and outsourcing is that we have different entry requirements there, and there's more information about that on our website, and I can share that link at the end. So to move on to our programs, I think this is kind of the bulk of where the interest may lie. We have a graduate program, which is a 3-year program that candidates will come onto after university. There's the opportunity to gain their professional accounting qualification as part of this, a part of those 3 years. We have an apprenticeship program, which is for school leavers, so following A levels or equivalent. It's a 4-year program. Again, the opportunity is there for them to gain their professional accounting qualifications as a result at the end of those 4 years. Summer internship is our 6-week work experience program. It's a paid opportunity for final year students. Well, essentially you have to be in your penultimate year for you to be on the internship. So you'd be going into your final year at the end of your internship. So whether that's 3 or 4 years, 2 or 3 of a 3-year course. Finally, we have our summer school, which is a 1-week program for year 12 students. They complete it over the summer as well. It's a really great intro to what we do. This slide is a bit small, but I wanted to touch on the level 7 apprenticeship, and the reason why I've specifically put this in here is because both on our graduate scheme and our apprenticeship scheme, both cohorts have to complete a level 7 apprenticeship, and that is tied to their professional qualifications, to that, you know, your ACA, your ACCA, the qualifications accountants have to do to be chartered. The level 7 apprenticeship is the equivalent of a master's. That's why both our apprentices and undergrad and graduates complete the same qualification. It allows them to develop the skills and the knowledge and behaviors they need in the workplace, so they learn whilst working. And by the end of it, they will have completed a project report and completing 20% off, and would have completed 20% of their learning off the job, essentially, so in class learning. It's really important to note this because there are so many misconceptions around around apprenticeships and them being a second choice offer or second choice option for students that may not be able to get into university. But we are like many companies within the industry who really do I guess value what the apprenticeship offers our candidates, and that's why we've chosen the level 7 apprenticeship for both the graduates and apprentices to complete. So if a candidate was to start with us at the age of 18 after graduating from A levels and then are with us for 4 years, they'll have the level 7 apprenticeship, the same qualification someone who then gone off to university, then come back to us and done 3 years with us will still get the same thing. this is just a summary of the years that a candidate would spend on the program. I've got level year 1 and year 2 here. Year 3 has gone off screen, but essentially in year 1 it's about understanding what their job is. It's familiarizing themselves with the skills and behaviors that they would need to be successful. They'll have skill seminars throughout. They have buddies, training coaches, learning support officers, and counselling managers alongside them, line managers. Again, it goes back to our values of support. They get that throughout the 4 years to ensure that they're supported as they work through their exams, their professional exams, and their day-to-day job. Year 2 again is about planning, understanding what the future may hold for them, and developing and reflecting on the skills that they've developed so far. Now, to take us to our application process, this is a process as it currently stands. We have an application form, which is essentially, we collect basic information from there. I'll kind of touch on that later on. We have our situational strengths test, our numerical reasoning test, and our critical reasoning test. These are all standardized tests, very similar to what a candidate would have to do if they're applying to any other professional services company. Situational strengths test your suitability to our culture and working environment. It's scenario based. You'll get questions asking you, what would you do in this particular situation? If your line manager asks you to complete a piece of work and it takes longer to complete than the deadline given, what do you do? Numerical reasoning is GCSE level mathematics. It covers ratios, percentages, so it's GCSE levels. Brushing up on things like that does really help candidates. And then critical reasoning is about your ability to understand and your analytical mind, getting a sense of that. Candidates that pass those tests can be practiced online. There are a number of companies that offer free online testing material. We then have a screening stage, and at this point we check candidates meet our eligibility requirements. Our requirements are 3 A star to C grade for A levels or equivalent. So A star to C, 3 of those at A level or equivalent. A grade A star to C, I know the numbers have changed, we're a bit behind, but A level at GCSE, A star to C in maths and English, and then a 2-2 or above at university. And then we have our video interview. This is essentially similar to what we have here in terms of this webinar. Candidates log on and they have a setup where they can see themselves and they're recorded, and a question comes up on screen. They answer the question as they would in an interview. Some of them are situation based, most of them are strength based. And then at the end of that, I think the process takes about 20 to 25 minutes to answer those questions. We then screen them on our side. If a candidate's successful at this stage, they then move on to our assessment centre. Just to quickly cover those elements I've talked about, our application form asks you for name, address, email address, basic personal information, their education and work experience to date. There is an opportunity to also attach a CV. We do not assess people based on their experience. We only use experience to make sure that candidates who are actually experienced professionals aren't applying for our early in careers program. So we are very passionate about making sure that we are open to candidates who may not have been able to get industry relevant experience. At this stage, I'd say the tip for your students would be to make sure they fill in the information correctly. If they have predicted grades, are waiting to sit their A levels and don't have confirmed A level grades, they just need to say that they've entered their predicted grades. Once they complete their A levels and results day comes, we then use that to cross check to make sure that they're still eligible for the program. Online tests, I've talked about this. Practice makes perfect. There are websites like jobme.com that allow candidates practice online tests. The maths in these tests are GCSE level, so ratios, percentages, that kind of thing. It's really important that candidates give themselves time to do these. They need to sit in a quiet room, have a pen and paper and calculator to hand, and keep an eye on the time. Our process is based on strength-based assessment, and that essentially means we want to hear about what people are passionate about, what gets them going, and what makes their brain tick, what excites them. This isn't about the experience that they have; it's about what they're passionate about, what brings them alive. So that could be awards that they've won, sports that they've played, passions and activities, or being able to work through a problem and show us their way of thinking. I've touched on a video interview. It's a recorded video interview. It can be done on the phone, tablet, laptop, or desktop. They can record it at their convenience, but it has to be done in one sitting. And just as a guide, it's 30 seconds to prepare your answer. So the question pops up on screen. They've got 30 seconds to read it, digest it, and then a minute 30 to actually answer. And that response is recorded. And then our final stage is the assessment centre. This is an example of our typical assessment centre, or the key elements of our assessment centre. There's always a written task, a group exercise, a presentation, and then a partner interview. We run these 4 elements to help us test different parts of a candidate's ability to make sure that we're getting to see the whole individual. There's an aggregate. We score them on an aggregate, meaning that you don't have to be exceptional at every part of the process in order to get through, but we look at the candidate in the round. So the idea is that these 4 elements give 4 different opportunities to show your strengths. So that's the end of my presentation. For any more information, whether that is about accounting as an industry and as a profession, you can go to the ICAEW, ICAS as well, Chartered Institute of Accountants as well. There are lots of research and resources on there that you can share with your students to help them understand a bit more about accounting and whether it's for them. You can also go to the BDO Early and Career website. We have lots of information there about our programs. Our current trainees talk about their experience as well, both on social media and on our website. We've got our Facebook and Twitter there for you to share with your students as well. You can also email myself, Aisha.olasaid, Said at bdo.co.uk. We've also got an Early in Careers email address that I'll stick in the comment section here so that you have it in case you've got any queries.
Brilliant, thank you, Aisha. Really useful and informative. So yeah, we've had quite a number of questions coming through, which is really good to see.
Yeah.
So I'll just start at the top, and we'll just try and get through as many as we can, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine.
Yeah, okay. So one question here: is assurance the same as audit?
No, so they are connected, but they're not necessarily the same. So I would go back to the slides, but it takes a while to go back there. But it's so they're in the same stream, but they're not exactly the same. The main difference is audit is about checking the financial statements and the accuracy of those, and we do that in a range of ways for different organizations. But then within assurance, that looks more at kind of risk and the mix between audit and risk. So helping safeguard our clients from whether that's technology risk or risk as it relates to their commercial practices.
Got you. Okay.
Does that answer the question?
Yeah, that's good. So the next one, is coronavirus impacting the number of apprenticeships available at BDO and other accounting organisations? I mean, it might be a little bit early to say, but have you got any sort of, hints or, any advice on that at all?
Yes. So It's a really interesting time across all businesses. For us, where we are at with it is that the health and well-being of our people and our candidates is the number one priority. So we have adapted our processes to make sure that we are protecting our candidates and our employees. Obviously, since we're all have been asked to kind of stay at home, and we no longer have in-person events or assessment centres, we've moved everything we do virtual. So webinars like this, we have a virtual assessment process to protect candidates as well. As a business, we feel really confident about where we are and our ability to support our candidates. So our application process at the moment is still open. We're still screening video interviews and so on. So yeah, I can't speak for other firms. It really depends on where they are in terms financially.
Yeah.
What I can say is one of the learnings from the 2008 crisis is that it's not best practice in these situations to not hire, because you will need that talent once we get through.
That's it's a business as usual, really, isn't it? Just at a distance. Yeah. Okay. Next question. So, are business and/or economics or IT qualifications acceptable if not studying mathematics?
Yes, so the only specific subject requirements we have are GCSE Maths, GCSE English, A star to C. Outside of that, a student can have studied any A levels or equivalent that they want. What I would say, actually, for anyone who works with university students, is just keeping an eye on students that may be studying financial accounting or those kind of subjects where they get exemptions from particular exams that they would have to do to get their professional accounting qualification. So it's just being mindful of that they check when they apply, that they basically state what exams they've already done or what exemptions they already have. This isn't relevant for school leavers, and it's not a restriction that we have on who can apply. It's just a part of the process that we have to know what exams they would have to be exempt from if they started with us.
Yeah. That last question actually follows into this one. So,
okay.
What A levels would you recommend be most useful to pupils who are interested in accounting?
This might not be the answer anybody wants to hear, but we have no specific A levels that we prefer. I don't only speak for myself. I definitely speak for the industry. We would prefer people do A levels that they're passionate about, which then means that they're able to get the grades necessary in those A levels to apply for one of our programs. We do not look for specific A levels. We do not prefer or prioritize candidates who have A level maths or A level accounting. We just prefer people to study what they're passionate about, because you get the best grades and it means that you can then apply to our programs.
Yeah, I suppose your business studies, economics, even politics would be quite handy A levels, I would have thought, considering what you guys do.
Well, you would think, but being honest, you learn everything you need to learn on the job. We have trainees who studied history at university. We have music degree holders. We have people who studied languages at university or at A levels. To be honest, a general commercial awareness is important. So being able to, read the news and have a sense of what it means is important. But studying a particular course doesn't put you at an advantage once you actually start the program.
Okay.
Just to mention there, this has reminded me, IIDA, which I mentioned in the presentation, that particular area, candidates need to be able to speak second language because of the amount of travel that's attached to that particular function. But that would be the only area that has a specific requirement in that way.
Okay, brilliant. Another one here. Would you be happy to share the video screening questions you ask?
Definitely not.
Thought that might be a bit cheeky.
We give a lot of guidance on our website around what to expect. The reason we don't share those questions in advance is because part of I guess the benefit of those tests, of that interview, is that the less prepared your answer is, the more honest your responses are, the better we're able to see what you're truly passionate about.
And you want people thinking on their feet as well, don't you, I suppose?
Exactly. And you end up, and that's why I talked about the strengths-based assessment. You are most confident about the things that you know and the things that you're passionate about. And those are the questions that we ask. We ask people to talk about their interests, to talk about times that they've been able to, think differently, and so on and so forth. The questions are worded in that way so that you can just naturally, off the cuff, give an answer that's honest and do well.
Okay, yeah. Okay. Are you happy to consider students who have done the extended BTEC route?
A BTEC national diploma. Is that what we mean by that?
I'm assuming so. That's what the question said.
So any qualifications that a candidate has that equals or adds up to the equivalent of 3 A levels at A star to C, we will take.
Yeah. Okay. And then another one. How do I get a representative from BDO to come and talk to our students?
We 100% love to do that. We do that all the time. Drop us an email, letting us know your school, where it is, and then we forward that to the relevant recruiter. We have recruiters that look after specific regions, and therefore go into schools in those regions, and we can, depending on kind of the setup that you have, we're happy to bring trainees and partners along as well who can talk about the job itself. So just send us an email.
Like give a first-hand account, I suppose, can't they? That's really good.
Yes, 100%.
Okay. They're asking also, would they be able to get a copy of the presentation slides at all, if they
yes,
or something?
Yes, but am I correct in thinking that this is recorded?
This is 100% recorded, so it'll be put on careermap.co.uk within a day or two. But if they wanted to maybe show the presentation in the class, would they be able to get the slides from you? Or?
Oh, sorry. Yes, sorry, no. No, we don't tend to do that. And the reason being is that we prefer to meet students ourselves. So if you do want us to come in and do a presentation, we're more than happy to, because then we can answer questions that candidates have. We're able to update, and also these slides change because, our programs might change, a new business function might come up. So we try not to have kind of outdated material out there. This is being recorded, which means that you could play this in your class, for example, because then at least I'm presenting the information. But the best way to do it is just to get in contact with us. We're more than happy to organize a webinar or an in-person visit, or we run roughly once a month. We open the doors of our office to run an insight event where we allow students, parents, careers advisors come in to hear from the trainees and partners and managers that work in that particular office. So that's even one better.
Cool. Okay. What if a school is not in your catchment area? Would there be opportunities for the students to, say, log on to a virtual career event or virtual work experience with BDO? Is that something you're looking at all?
Yes, especially with the situation we have right now. All our events have moved online, so we post opportunities for webinars that anybody can attend. We also don't necessarily have catchment areas, so if there is a school that wants us to come along, where we have 17 offices across the UK, there will be an office nearby that would be happy to come along or invite you round for something. But if you've got a captive audience of 30 students, 40 students, 50 students that you'd like us to talk to, we're more than happy to organise a webinar.
Excellent. So there's another one here. What are the ballpark salaries offered for the graduate and apprenticeship schemes?
How long's a piece of string? No, so there is a range of salaries, and this is because within all those areas that I've talked about, the entry points differ for each of those. So you might have graduates in cities, and London have the kind of city weighting that allows for kind of living wages there. The BDO Drive and outsourcing have lower entry requirements because we take on candidates who are earlier on in their career journey, and therefore the starting salary there reflects that. So there's a real range. We have offices in Scotland, Glasgow and Edinburgh that have different salaries to, for example, Manchester and London. So there's a real range there.
So I'm assuming if someone was going to apply for your roles, then the salary information would be actually on the job listing?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Another one, how many apprentices are taken on each year and how many apply?
It changes year on year. This year, I think we're at picking numbers out from what I remember. I think we're about 300 to between 200 and 300. We have anything upwards of the tens of thousands of applications.
Quite a big scheme then, yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Would you confirm what is the percentage of apprentices that obtain a permanent position afterwards, after the training?
Everyone that passes the exam has a permanent position.
Excellent. Okay.
We only recruit we recruit on a permanent basis. So we don't. I know that there is places where you do your apprenticeship's kind of like a training program. For us, the apprenticeship is the job. So at the end of the 4 years, they are a chartered accountant and they get promoted. We don't let go of people in that way. The only time that would happen, I can't really think of a situation where that would happen. We hire on a permanent basis.
So when they're applying for the apprenticeship, they're basically applying for a job with BDO, aren't they?
Yeah. Yes. And that's why the graduates and apprentices do the same qualification. I know that it's a bit confusing because we've got our school leaver program and our graduate program, but they both do the apprenticeship, which is a qualification, not a temporary job offer, if that makes sense.
Yeah, of course. Another one here. Is the level 7 in taxation and accounts ? What will you offer? What will your offer be if the ESFA pulls the higher and degree apprenticeships out of the levy system? I.e., will you still continue to do them or not, I suppose?
Yes, we would still do them. The level 7 apprenticeship is across all our programs apart from BDO Drive and outsourcing, which is slightly different and have a lower level of apprenticeship attached to them. We would still do it because we still offer the professional qualification, so the ACA or the ACCA or the AAT, depending on where the trainees are working. But yes, we would still offer a qualification.
Okay. Helen's asked, how many pass, I'm assuming, pass the qualifications for your apprenticeship?
I don't know. So we have a team, the professional qualifications team. They look after our trainees once they join and manage their kind of training experience throughout the 3 years, depending on grad or apprentice. They'll know those numbers. I don't know off the top of my head. I think the accounting bodies potentially release data like that every year. Yeah. So maybe checking their site for kind of industry averages might be helpful.
Okay. Have you got any advice on what potential candidates could be doing during the coronavirus? You know, they're not at school or anything. Do you have any sort of tips or hints to help them prepare when things go back to normal?
Yes. So I would say taking it bit by bit, online testing. You can never get enough practice of that. I've met young people so many times who've wanted to apply for us, filled out the application form and gone, oh, this is really easy, because it is just, personal information. And then they're like, oh, there's a test. Okay, I'm just going to do the test, and then fail because they don't have experience of it. The test is not like a test you'd have to do in school. It does take a while to get used to having the time factor, using doing it on a laptop or computer or phone. So just getting as much practice of the online test as possible, I'd say is really important. We also still are speaking to candidates. Our phone lines are open, our email address is open, our social media accounts are open. There are events and webinars that we run that they can attend. So there's lots of opportunity to gain more information and knowledge about what a career would be like with us or at any other professional services firm.
Brilliant. And I suppose the last one is on a personal level. What's the best bit about working for BDO in your experience?
So I definitely really would say the culture, and I know everybody will say that about wherever they work, but prior to working at BDO, I was a consultant, so I worked with a number of large organizations, and BDO is one of the first places I've been to where they really do live by their culture. It is a very supportive environment. They really pride themselves in the fact that they feel like a family firm. I mean, when you have 5,500 employees in the UK, you question how you can have that close-knit community, but it really is the case that that's how it is there. Even talking about the circumstances that we're in right now, as on a in this global crisis, it's been a very supportive place, and the emphasis that's put on supporting our people to make sure that we're all coping well with this situation and that BDO is there to support us is overwhelming. So I would say it's one of the most supportive places I've been.
Excellent. Okay. And I think this would have to be the last one, unfortunately. Are you putting any activities in place to support schools in meeting the Gatsby benchmarks?
We are constantly trying to engage with schools to support them with the Gatsby benchmarks, because also it works for us, right? We want to engage with as many students as possible and help them understand what our process is like and what the opportunities are with us. I guess it's just difficult because there are so many schools and it doesn't feel like there's a central place where we can kind of aggregate all that effort and get that information out there. So at the moment, we work on a school by school basis. We try and build relationships with schools, speaking to careers advisors, speaking to vice principals or whoever we can get in contact with, really. But at the moment, we are really trying. We put webinars together. We're happy to host events. We're happy to come into schools. To be honest, it's more about working around the school's calendar and making sure we're speaking to the right person who can make an event happen or who can allow us into their class. So if anybody does want us to do that, obviously once all this calms down and we're back outside in the world, we'd be more than happy to run an event. Or if there's a webinar you'd like us to put together, we're happy to discuss that as well. Okay.
One really last question though. What entry requirements will you take now we have the coronavirus, as there'll be no A-level exams? I'm assuming it'll just be on the predicted stuff, will it?
So we're in exactly the same place as schools in that we do not know. We basically want to make sure that whatever decisions we make, we are aligning our decisions to what the government has advised. So we don't want to put any students at a disadvantage by having separate expectations to what the government has set. So we're waiting for whatever the instructions or the guidance will be from the DfE or the government, and then we'll fall in line with that.
Got you. Well, have you got anything else left to say, Aisha?
No, just thank you so much for having me, and hopefully I've been able to answer some of the questions that people have.
No, it's been really, really good. Thank you very much. So like we said earlier, the session's been recorded, be uploaded to careermap.co.uk soon, maybe tomorrow, hopefully. You can refer back to that presentation at any time. Our next webinar will be on the 7th of April at 3 p.m. and will be delivered by Skills Forward. I've just put a link actually in the chat if anyone wants to register there, and they can have a look at what Skills Forward are going to be talking about. So, but yeah, thanks everyone for joining, and yeah, we'll see you soon, and stay safe. Thanks very much.
Thank you.